Will you welcome from South Africa, Khomotso Manyaka? And the director, Oliver Schmitz.
How do you pronounce your name? Your last name?
Vilassa.
Vilassa?
Oh, yeah.
Vilassa?
Michael Barker.
I think I need Nate to do the announcing. Nate, because what makes me cry is goodness, and when you see those neighbors come to the house, and her courage in going to get her mother. Oh. I'm sorry.
To moderate this panel, we have Michael Barker, who's the co-president of Sony Pictures Classics, or Sony Classics Pictures, one or the other, and the distributor of this film, and one of our far-flung correspondents, Pablo Vilassa from Brazil. So, Michael, Pablo.
Needless to say, it was really incredible to watch that on such a big screen. Your sense of framing and the way the film is shot is unbelievable. The way the camera moves, the use of close-up on our star here is quite remarkable. And what I thought we would start with is for you to explain where the film was shot, how you found the location, because it's really interesting, that location and how it inspired you.
Well, we went on a research trip to South Africa before we started shooting, and we went to an area called Elandsdoorn, where she's from, and we went to a clinic there because we met the doctor who runs the clinic, who does incredible work with AIDS treatment in South Africa. So we went to actually inform ourselves what it's like in the countryside, because we wanted to shoot this film in a small place out of town somewhere. And I fell in love with it. It was a kind of place where you had a feeling that people were proud of who they were, of their homes, of their lives. It's a kind of, for me, it was a kind of African version of white picket fences, where everybody knew each other, went to the same churches, meddled in each other's business maybe, but the kind of thing small communities do. But that under the surface, there's this problem that nobody wants to speak about. So once we decided to film in the area, and the clinic helped us, get to know the community and give us an in, then we started casting, because I wanted to cast somebody from that area. All the kids from that area had never done any drama before. They had a choir. We saw about 200 kids, but they'd never acted before, any of them. And out of those 200, there were about 8 who were really special, and some were very, very special. So that was the beginning of the process.
Well, actually, I still have my Kleenex here. It's the first time I've seen this film, and oh boy, I wish I didn't have to discuss it right now because I'm still emotional. I don't want you to think that all Brazilian film critics are crybabies. It's just me. But she had never acted before, and that's such a powerful performance. And it's not only powerful; she has to carry the film. And we get to know her, and we stay very close to her face all the time. We can see what she's thinking, what she's going through, all the pressure she's under, which is astonishing. And in the last shot, when you focus on her eyes, it's such a strong moment because we see the strength and all she's been through. I wanted you to talk, both of you, to speak a little about how did you manage to do that? I mean, how could she, for a first-time actress, someone who had never acted before, how did you construct this? How did you pull it off?
Well, for me to be able to do this movie, it's because the director was there and some of the actresses were there. So they tried so hard for me to enjoy what I was doing, and like to not to just have that pressure that I'm doing this work, so I have to just focus on it and be there, and so they made me to focus but in an enjoyable way. So yeah, it was very easy for me to do it because yeah, they were there for me, and it was it was quite fun for me.
Well, it was, we had a lot of castings and rehearsals, and she had a casting with her screen mother, and they were fantastic together. There was really something that happened immediately. And, I realized the camera just loves her as well. She has a presence where she doesn't need to do anything, and she's there. And, for both of us, it was a leap of faith. She'd never done it. I've never worked with somebody who'd never acted before. So it all depended on the trust and the way we could understand each other in that process. And the actress who played the neighbor, she was the coach on set during the shooting. So she was always there, standby, to help and assist. But, Khomotso had to be there 36 shooting days, and every day, and maybe she fell asleep in front of the camera while we were shooting once or twice, but as she said, she always woke up for her lines.
The other thing that really is amazing in the film is the use of color. Throughout the film, you use muted colors. It's very desaturated sometimes, and then you have those splashes of color sometimes when they're singing or using colorful clothing. And I think that's a good indication of how the film works in a mood sense. The dark places and the bright places. The dark, her house is very dark, blue colors in the walls, and her neighbor's brighter yellow. It's very intelligent use of color and light. And I wonder if you could tell us about how you plan the lighting in the film.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did the director of photography is fantastic. I worked with him before, but this is the first time we've done a full-length movie together, and we spent a lot of time talking about framing and color, and to have a grading, which is not, often you say, okay, the film's going to have this kind of a look. We had a transition where the film starts off in a different color emphasis than it ends. And in the middle it's different. So we had this whole flow of which colors are important when in the story. And framing the house became a very important factor in this, because She's often framed through doorways, through windows, to create a sense that this house, which is the shelter, is actually a prison at the end of the day because they cannot go out because of the prejudice of the people around. So this is what we try to do, to increase the pressure through the framing on the lead character. And she's in almost every shot of the movie, which is not an easy thing to do. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this.
How long did it take to shoot the film?
We shot in two shooting periods, because the mother and the stepfather, they had to lose weight for the roles. So we shot that first so that over Christmas they could eat again. I think they enjoyed it that way around and not the other way. And then we shot again in February the next year. So all in all, 36 shooting days. We had an extra shooting day because we had some technical problems. But the fantastic thing about working like this is you can look at what you've done and edit it and say, well, that's good and that really sucks, so maybe we can do that again, which we did with 2 scenes, or we did some extra shots. So if I could, I'd always work like this now.
One of the things I find really interesting about this film is that it's based on a novel written by a Canadian, and the screenwriter, born in Michigan.
Detroit, I think.
Yeah, Michigan.
Oh, sorry.
And
I'm a South African.
That's Michigan. He also moved to Canada as well. So this particular picture is very much an international film, in the sense there's a lot of talent from Germany, there's a lot of talent from South Africa, and these writers are from Canada. How did that come about?
Well, you know, chance plays a role in these things sometimes. The producer met Alan Stratton, the writer of the book, in Toronto, and became interested in the project. He brought it to me and asked me if I wanted to direct. At that stage, there was the possibility for Telefilm Canada to come in to finance the screenwriting, and that's what happened. So, you know...
Was the book a popular novel? Or was it a novel, or was it
a novel?
Yeah,
a novel.
Was it popular in Canada or in Europe or in Africa?
Well, in Canada, it was popular. Especially, it won some awards. It was popular in the school circuit. In Namibia, it's been used in schools. So it sort of worked very well as a young adult novel. And I'm not sure about South Africa, although I think now with the movie there's talk about showing it in schools. So, but that's how the Canadian factor started. And Dennis Foon, who wrote the screenplay, was one of the screenwriters recommended in Canada, and he knew Alan as well. And I read some of Dennis's screenplays, and it was a good synergy. Him knowing the author of the book and the kind of work he'd done, and we met a few times before, and then most of the time we worked on Skype together, writing the script and talking about it. It's a new experience.
How did your childhood in South Africa inform the film?
Well, I grew up in the heyday of apartheid South Africa. So I've been thinking about this during the interviews recently, because I grew up in a society as well with its secrets. They were open secrets as well, but as a child growing up, you're aware of things are not right around you, but you don't understand everything. Why? So I had to think about this. I didn't think about this at the time of making it directly, but I'd had to think about it now again, just as a parallel, because it was like, we grew up in a privileged dictatorship. It was, you know, suburban life was good, but you realized something was horribly wrong, and as you grew older, it became clearer why. So I suppose it was part of the reason why the films are made in South Africa, is kind of for pushing myself out there into broader society and looking at the issues of the broader society.
Speaking of the novel, 2 things actually. How much did the character change from the book to the film? And, well, I'll ask the second question later.
The main change was the age of the character. In the book, Shonda is about 16 years old, and I really felt this wouldn't work because kids grow up quite quickly, and in South Africa, a 16-year-old knows pretty much everything that is debated and discussed in this film. So for the character still to be a child enough to be only at the beginning of this process and to ask questions which are naive, in a positive way, naive. You know, the why question that the adults are not asking, why the silence, why don't you do something? 16 is too old, so this was the fundamental change, and the writer of the novel he wasn't sure at the beginning, and we had email going backwards and forwards about this, but once he was there on set, he said, okay, I understand now what you're doing, and he was very supportive.
And how old was you? How old were you when you shot the film? 13. 13. Wow. Yeah. And you know, that's the thing. I'm observing her here, and she's smiling. She's shy, and she's playing with her bracelets. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's so innocent, so childish in a good way. And up on the screen, she's so strong, so sure of herself. And her smile. Speaking of her smile, if the colors are used to indicate the atmosphere of the film, so is her smile. When she smiles on screen, you go, oh my God, it's a turning point. How did you, first of all, did you read the book beforehand?
Nope.
No. So when you were creating this character and talking about the moods and the when she's happier, when she's more depressed, or when she feels more pressured, how did you manage to get into those moods for each? It was not shot sequentially, was it? No. So it's even harder. How did you manage to put yourself in her place in all those different moods?
Well, before we shot the movie, we had rehearsals. So, it was my birthday that day, and yeah, so they said I must cry. Because there's a scene where I'm supposed to cry, so I was supposed to cry that day. And then I tried to cry, and I did, until I cried. So we did have rehearsals, a lot of rehearsals, and they taught me that what's gonna happen and what should I expect. And I think some of the scenes were natural, they just came natural. Yeah.
It just came natural. It's that easy, yeah. The word AIDS is barely spoken on screen. And when they say... when they say it out loud, it's almost a whisper. And it's the disease is associated with a moral judgment. How did you approach the subject in this aspect?
Well, I mean, in the book already, this is part of the book that, you know, this word can't be spoken. But in the screenplay, we paid special attention to it, that it's a word on the character's lips, and they're thinking it, but they won't say it right till the last third of the movie. You know, to really reinforce the oppressive feeling that everybody actually knows what the issue is, but nobody is prepared to talk about it, to the point where it becomes really destructive, maybe more destructive than the illness itself. So that was intentional, to hold back, and for her to be the first one, the only one to actually say it, except with the neighbor in the car then, but for her to say it for the first time, yeah.
Okay, the neighbor character, she's a very interesting character, because at the same time that you hate her, you kind of see that she's trying to do something good, that she's trying to help. But until the end, you're not sure how you feel about her. How that character fits in the mood of the whole film and in the narrative, in the sense of establishing this relationship with the audience.
She's a complex character. Out of the perspective of Shonda, she is the person who is standing in her way and controlling the community, which she is. But her true motivations and the complexity of why she's behaving like this, we only find out right at the end when she has her conversion. The actress is a fantastic actress. She also acted in films like Hotel Rwanda. And she was on set the whole time, standby as a coach as well, for not just Khomotso, but Kyobako, who played Esther, and the little kids as well. And she was so thankful for that opportunity, because she said being on set every day as an actor, you just see so much more of what you're doing. And it really shows in the scenes, the confrontations between Shonda and her, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
You said beforehand that you were a comedy writer. Yeah, we can see that on screen. But actually, there are some moments where the jokes, they come just in the right moment, when it's starting to feel too suffocating. Then you have this laugh, and you kind of, oh, thank God I left. How your experience as a comedy writer was used?
I've never been a comedy writer. I've been a comedy director. But I think it's incredibly important, because the story is so tragic, and there's so much that happens to her. I think it's important that you can breathe in between, and that everyday life and everyday situations and small incidents can just kind of pop up and change the mood of the story. Yeah, I was thankful for every one of them in the book, and I think used every one of them in the book and the screenplay.
It's a very important movie to see with a big crowd like this. I love it, because when you sit in the audience and that moment of the neighbor's deliverance or conversion, you can feel everybody kind of breathe easier, because you've been uneasy the whole time. And it strikes you on such an emotional level. I also think that section of the movie takes it to a certain extent out of South Africa to almost any community, and any kind of ostracizing that goes on, including something like the blacklist, and the movie becomes so universal at that point, and it all comes out what we've been holding in, and it's magnificent. Shall we open for some questions?
I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for the mic. I've got a hearing problem.
Esther. Okay. She's my age too, and we are a real friend. We've known each other since before grade 1, since childhood. So, and it was quite great working with her. It was very nice, at least to work with someone that you've known like forever. So it was very nice. And we're in school together now, a school called the National School of the Arts in Johannesburg. So we're learning about drama. So for now, yeah. Yep.
So how much of the cast was of the casting was made using the people from the locations, and were there any professional actors in the film?
Oh yeah, a lot of the central cast was professional. I just want to latch on to one thing that Khomotso said before I answered it. That, you know, they don't, the kids don't have any drama education in the area where she's from, because they both, her and Kubaka, who played Esther, wanted to now pursue acting. We've facilitated that they attend a school in Johannesburg called the National School of the Arts, and they now have bursaries so they can finish their education, and they're studying drama. So I think this is, you know, a great step for both of them. The actors, the mother, the neighbor, the teacher, the man from the funeral parlor, the stepfather, the aunt, they're all professional actors. Some of the neighbors in the street and the kids were from Elandsdoorn, and all the extras are from around there as well. So a lot of people from there worked on the film, and they'd never been part of a movie-making process before. It was a first. And it's the first time a movie's been shot in this language, Sepedi as well, so they're all very proud of that. Yeah, so, but the core of the actors are mostly from Johannesburg, and are professional actors. Incidentally, there's one actress who lives in that area, who works for television, and this is not malicious, but we didn't have a role for her. So the only person who was really a professional actress from that area, we didn't give a part, and she was very upset about it. And I apologized profusely, but we didn't have a role that would fit her.
Down in front.
Hi, powerful movie. I was just wondering because I expected, once reaching the climax of the film, since it had a sort of a consistent mood of uneasiness, as mentioned before, when you get to the climax where the neighbors are starting to confront the girl, I thought it would have gotten into darker territory. It almost feels that you could have an alternate ending where it ends on a downer. So I was wondering if you ever considered that at one point.
That it ended on?
Yeah, that it ended in a darker way or in a more devastating way.
For me, this was never an option. You know, the book ended in a more linear way, maybe, where Shonda goes with her friend to a clinic, and her friend starts getting treatment. For me, it was always important that there's a window of optimism in this story. And I think for the lead character to go through all of this and persevere and move forward towards the future, there has to be an optimism, something inside her soul to carry her through this, which I think is very important. So I cannot imagine the story without that window of light at the end of the story.
The scene where the mother, there's a scene in this film, quite in the beginning, that really moved me, to say the least. When the mother is cradling the baby that is, oh boy. Was that in the book?
What?
Sorry.
I've got a hearing problem, I'm sorry.
Was that scene in the book?
That scene was in the book. It did not start the book. You know, there's a lot of narrative, there's a lot of backstory in the book. But that's where we decided to start the film. We didn't know about the song at that stage yet, but in the pre-production, I listened to a whole lot of songs from the local choir, and this song blew me away, just the fact that it had a meaning that could make sense for the whole film about redemption. And, you know, it's very biblical, passing through the gates into the light, but to use it as a bookend at the beginning and the end of the film. But that wasn't in the novel, but the fact that the mother's in mourning and doesn't go outside, yes, but there was a good, I don't know, 20 pages, I'm sure, before you got into that in the actual novel.
From the balcony.
Thank you for such a powerful film. I wanted to make a quick comment I thought that you might be interested in, and possibly some audience members as well. The book Chandra's Secrets was actually selected by a group of people who we have a sister city relationship with Zomba, Malawi, and because the book originally takes place in Malawi, we were going to use this book to educate teachers as well as students here in the K through 12 classrooms. So I thought you'd be interested in that. But I also wanted to ask a question beyond that comment, and that is, why did you choose an English name or an English title? Or does it have, in the language that is spoken in the film, is there an alternative title when you show it in South Africa or elsewhere?
Well, we debated long about using the original title of the book, which is Chandra's Secret, but we kind of used it as a working title because I felt, yes, the secrets are there, but they're not her secrets, they're the secrets of the community around her. So when we knew we were in selection in Cannes, we were thinking long and hard and had to think very quickly, and titles went back furiously left and right, and Life Above All came out in those last 24 hours when we had to make a decision, and we all felt this was what the film is about. This is what's more important than it sounds banal, but it's profound at the same time as life. And it came from our French partners in the production. Ironically, they ended up not using it for the French release. They went back to the original. But I think it's a great title. The fact that it was never in an African language, the title of the story. And Alan wrote very generically about Southern Africa, so it wasn't set within one language or one culture. It could have been a story in South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe.
Didn't you choose that language, though? I mean, it could have been in English. It could have been in another language.
Yeah.
But you chose that particular one.
I chose this language, yeah.
Why was that?
I chose it because I felt, firstly, that, specificity is important, and that if you get the specifics right, then maybe somebody somewhere else in the world, in Champaign-Urbana, will relate to it as well. That's my philosophy about storytelling. And then we chose the language because she speaks the language, and I needed her to feel comfortable with her acting and what she's doing. So once we decided to shoot in that area, we decided to shoot in the language Pedi, or Sepedi as it's known. And even though I don't have much of a grasp of it, she's laughing already, I know how to say thank you and quiet and stuff like that. I think it's a beautiful language, and it says so much more than if we shot it in English, because you get a feeling for a very soft-spoken, respectful kind of culture. If we shot it in English, we'd have lost that, I think.
Right here to your left.
Now, I love the film, and my question is directed towards the actress. I'm sorry, I can't remember how to pronounce your name at all, and I wasn't even going to try. Now, one of the things that stuck out the most to me was your performance, and I was curious, what's your technique in getting in character and developing your character, and how do you do that?
As I said, it's it came natural. I didn't know that I had a talent of acting, so I was just doing what they told me to do. I was just doing my job. So yeah.
This is where you get with no acting lessons.
Over in the back.
Hello. I agree with the gentleman down front who talked about the possible other alternate ending. When I saw the first Stone in Hand, I immediately had a flashback to the first time I read Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. It has a far less sunny disposition ending. The three characters in your movie ask for forgiveness. Can you discuss the using forgiveness as a dramatic device and its importance?
Asking for forgiveness if it's important. Yes, it is. I mean, the whole debate around AIDS and the whole stigma is so couched in things other than it is, you know, it's turned into an issue about morality, cleanliness. You know, the stigma attached to the fear is so couched in other things and mixed in with religion then as well, for the characters to break through all of that stuff. You know, the conversion that happens at the end is incredibly important. And you know, I think what Michael said is right. It's that point which takes the story off into a different level, because unless you can feel that and experience it, you need that catharsis to actually feel, okay, the change is possible. It is possible to speak about it, and that speaking about it is the most powerful thing, I think, in the movie. So this is what was always clear. This had to be the culmination of what we were moving towards the end.
From the balcony.
This is a question for Khomotso. And if I'm being too personal, please just ignore it. But I would like to know how aware you and your friend who played Esther, how aware were you of AIDS before the director came to town, and how did your attitude and knowledge change during the filming?
Well, first thing first, my mom is a counselor of HIV and AIDS, and we have a clinic where she works on it. They have groups which they help people who are HIV and AIDS, and they help orphans who need help, like who really need help, that they take care of themselves. They help them, they give them food, and so they really help the community to prevent HIV and AIDS, and they did some programs about HIV and AIDS, how to prevent it and how to protect yourself from HIV and AIDS. So we're really aware of HIV and AIDS, and my mom and I, we talk about HIV and AIDS in live very often. So yeah, it's like that.
In front.
Well, that's a great segue question. I was going to ask you, Khomotso, could this story really happen in your town?
Well, as I said, we help each other in our area, so I don't know if there are people who need help, but I think you should explain the one that you know. Well, the only one that I know is yours, so yeah.
Okay. My impression as an outsider in the area, we went to do research, and we met some of the kids there who were orphaned, whose parents had died from AIDS-related illnesses, and there were situations where, for instance, the one situation, a 14-year-old girl was looking after two younger siblings. She'd been doing that for 3 to 4 years already, so they were living in the house that belonged to the parents, but they had no adult looking after them. They had one neighbor who brought food sometimes, and one sister who came once a month with a little bit of food and money. And I was kind of shocked about this because it didn't fit into my picture of African, there's a word in South Africa, Ubuntu, which means everybody is connected and responsible for one another. And I was kind of very troubled by this, and I asked some of the people locally, and I said, well, what's happened to Ubuntu? And they said, well, it's kind of breaking down a bit. So that it got me really thinking and fired me up to make this movie as well, because there were, I saw the support structures for the kids. So the clinic brought them all together on Saturday mornings. There were about 30 to 40 in the area. They come together and dance and sing. And I looked up statistics that in South Africa there were between 800,000 and 1 million AIDS orphans, which kind of shocked me even more. So, given that, we didn't find any outright stigma face-to-face from people except through those children, what we saw. So I think it does still play a role. I think the book by Alan Stratton is very firmly set in the time which was the Thabo Mbeki years in South Africa, where some very bad decisions happened politically, where people were denied treatment. Government did not participate in supplying treatment and made very confusing statements like that HIV and AIDS are not connected medically. So it confused a lot of people and made them feel helpless as well. So the film is not claiming to be the story of South Africa now, 2011, in every small town and city. It's about what has happened in the past, and the situation at the end with the neighbors is the extreme example of that. So I don't think that has happened in that area, but everybody who took part in that was extremely moved by that, and thought we'd done a good job in portraying the potential threat and the stigma that has been there in its various forms. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. If I can just squeeze one more in. Sepúlveda is the language. It's wonderful to listen to, the language in which it was filmed, Khomotso's native language. What is it made out of? I could make out English and Dutch. Can you tell me about the language?
Well, the language is one of the South African language, and what I can say, most of the white people like the language, but the one that they really like is isiZulu, which they I think it's more easier than Sepedi, but it's quite nice to the language. So yeah, if you like it, you can learn it. You can come to South Africa and learn it. Yeah, you can come to South Africa, then you'll have a school.
Only if you teach it to us.
Yeah.
Okay, to your far left, please.
Thank you both for being here today. What is your hope for the film in South Africa in terms of its impact? And just the same, how has it been received? You talked about being accepted in the community in terms of talking about the issue of AIDS. Have you found resistance elsewhere throughout South Africa, whether personally or in general in terms of its film and its acceptance?
Well, the film, I think, is not polemical, and I think that's good. I think because it focuses on the human drama, everybody can think about it at the end and say, why is a child in a society in this situation? Generally, we've had an incredible amount of support. The movie was put forward by South Africa for the Academy Awards for Best Foreign Film. It won in Durban Film Festival, the Durban International Film Festival, Best Movie and Best Leading Actress. In the South African Film and Television Awards, we won 7 awards, including, again, Best Leading Actress. So, and generally there's been really a lot of support in South Africa. I think sometimes from government sectors, I feel there's a bit of defensiveness because AIDS has been such a hot potato in South Africa and because there's been so much criticism. And because it deals with something which is so problematical as well. But otherwise, we've had an incredible response, and the movie showed as well in Khomotso's hometown, where we shot. Maybe you can say something about that.
Well, people loved it. They really, really liked it, and there were we showed it in our theater, so it was really, really full. Some of the people did, let's say, half of the people in our area didn't come there because they couldn't go inside the theater because everyone was there, and it got physical, and people tried to take off the gate so that they can go inside and watch the movie. So some of the children did get in, but most of them didn't go inside, but they really, really loved it.
From the balcony, stage left.
This is addressed to the young lady, and I'm sorry I can't say your name. I'd like to know how old you are now. You handle yourself so well. And also, if you could tell us a little bit about your family, maybe your brothers and sisters, and how this experience has maybe changed your life.
I'm 14 and a half now because, this year I'm turning 15, but I'm still 14. My family, I can say I have 3 brothers, younger brothers. I'm a firstborn, and I do fight a lot with my younger brother, the one who's following me. He's 10 years old this year. So he is 10 years old already. So we fight a lot because I think he thinks he is now a man. So yeah, he's growing up. So he thinks now I'm the one who, he's the one who has to rule the house. So yeah, but it's quite fun to have siblings. And I enjoy being with them, but as now I'm at school, I see them like once or twice a month. So it's quite difficult, but sometimes it's enjoyable because I won't be annoyed by little brothers. And so, but yeah, it's really nice. My family is very nice and quiet. Yeah.
In front.
I wanted to tell you, Khomotso, that you look spectacular and pretty, and thanks for sharing us your sweetness.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you if it was hard to work with these kids in these such big subjects, and I mean, to not impress them, to make an impact for all the audience. How do you work with them, with children?
Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, we had a lot of casting sessions before making a final decision. I think Khomotso came quite a few times, so did Kiyobaka, because the combination was very important as well. And I think what was great is that they know each other. It gave them a kind of security as well, that they could play off one another and their friendship. But we did a lot of rehearsals and coaching beforehand, and just the kind of basics about preparing for a character and preparing for your scenes. And she did a lot of work with her mum as well. At home they did lines together. So we did rehearsals. We shot some of those rehearsals, and we even did a mock shoot before we started shooting with a reduced crew. But on the Friday before shooting, we all went to the house with a camera and lights and sound, so that they could get used to the feeling of more people around. There's not a big shock arriving on the first day of shooting there's 30 people staring at you. So, but I must say she just grew from strength to strength. You know, it was a leap of faith for us because, you know, even for an adult actor to be there 36 days, the whole day, the whole time, it's a tough job. But she really rose to the occasion. And what she said earlier is true. You know, I played the fool on set a lot just so that they didn't feel it's a burden or something heavy to do. It's just, we had a lot of fun on set, and then as soon as the cameras rolled, we concentrated and we worked. Alan, the writer, when he came, he was quite sort of amazed by this at first. He didn't understand why everybody's laughing and fooling and playing around. It's such a serious story. But I think it was very important just to keep things in balance, yeah.
Over here in front.
Do we have time?
Just one more.
Yeah, because I'm starting.
Yeah.
She's growing restless.
Oh, my question's actually for Michael in this, but first I want to say, without a doubt, that is the best movie I've seen in at least a year. So thanks to Roger for bringing it to the festival. But my question for you, Michael, is how do you find a movie like this, and how do you convince your company to buy it and distribute it, and when will we get a chance to buy it or see it in the theaters?
It's opening July 15th. And Oliver mentioned it was the South African entry for the Oscar. It made the short list, but it did not make the 5 nominees, which we certainly felt it deserved to. 1 year ago in Cannes, I had dinner with my good friends Richard Corliss, Mary Corliss, Roger Ebert, and Chaz Ebert. And it's a very nice personal dinner we have. And I wanted to talk about a film I was very excited about and thought was the best film in Cannes that had not been bought, which was Of Gods and Men. And they wanted to talk about Life Above All. They were crazy about it. And I just heard them go on and on and on about this movie. It was a moment of great embarrassment to me because not only had I not seen it, I didn't know what it was. And it had played in Cannes, and it was incredible. They were told me the response. They had just been to the screening right before the dinner. And at the dinner, while we were eating, I very surreptitiously made a number of calls about the film. And my colleagues and I, my partner Tom Bernard and our head of acquisitions, Dylan Liner, I said, okay, this is the picture we have to see. So we saw it, and we responded in the way you all have responded, and especially this young lady to her performance as well. And we knew that Oliver, we had seen Oliver's first movie called Mapansula, which was a film we were great fans from many years ago. It was in Cannes, I think, in 1989. And so he was a name to us, a known entity to us. And so we acquired the movie. And Oliver, the movie has a real chance here because of Oliver and Khomotso, because they're going around the country and they're promoting the film. Although the journalists are forewarned. I heard there was a journalist who was a bit boring and was interviewing them, and Khomotso crawled under the table and went to sleep. You have no idea how that thrilled me. So, as far as the company is concerned, I mean, I've been here many times. You know a lot of the films that we either make or we acquire. And the fact of the matter is, it is our 20th year at Sony, and Sony has always given us freedom and the respect to do what we want to do and to invest in the movies we want to invest in. And so that was never a concern of ours, never a problem. So it's opening July 15th. I hope you come see it again.
So that's it. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.